The reality is, with the executive order and the criteria that has been developed, any individual, I can tell you half of my family would be eligible for deportation under the executive order. Because if they got a false social security card, if they got a false identification, if they got a false driver's license prior to us passing AB 60, if they got a false green card, and anyone who has family members, who are undocumented knows that almost entirely everybody has secured some sort of false identification. That's what you need to survive, to work. They are eligible for massive deportation. So the reality is this has been politicized.
Senator De Leon, we are ready for you. Would you like to present SB 54?
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Good morning to each and every one of you, to our Vice Chair, Mr. Anderson. Good morning. I want to thank you very much for the opportunity to present SB 54, which will protect the safety and well-being of all Californians by ensuring that state and local resources are not used to separate families and ultimately hurt the California economy. This past week, the President confirmed some of our worst fears by signing an executive order on interior immigration enforcement. He will not focus on criminals, as he promised on the campaign trail. Instead, his deportation policy will be a dragnet for thousands, if not millions, of hardworking immigrants. The executive order dramatically blurs the definition of what a serious criminal actually is. For example, it calls for the prioritization of anyone charged with any criminal offense. Anyone who has, quote, committed acts that constitute a chargeable criminal offense. And alarmingly, those who have misrepresented themselves on an application before a governmental agency and abuse any program related to receipt of public benefits. The latter two are particularly troubling if you understand what undocumented immigrants have to do to survive and provide for their families.
My name is Sal Tinajero, and I'm a member of the Santa Ana City Council. I traveled here today to ask you to vote yes on SB 54. The California Values Act places urgent need to protect all of Californians against Trump's attacks on our diverse immigrant community. We need our community members to feel safe coming forward to report crimes to police and to access vital services, including schools, healthcare facilities, and courthouses.
I want to thank you, Senator De Leon, for bringing this bill, SB 54, and I want to make it clear that this bill is more than a reaction. The impact that the executive order has caused on families and communities throughout California is real. As evidenced by the testimony that we heard earlier from, example, Mr. Alvarez, others, and by what we witnessed over the weekend with people held at airports, which seems to be continuing even with the judge's order. So that resulting fear can lead people to not trust our law enforcement agencies, our social service agencies, our schools, and so much more. And when under fear, there can be many consequences that are not good for the health and safety of our communities and our state. For example, fearful of cooperating with government agencies and law enforcement, fearful of reporting crimes, fearful of seeking services for families, even decisions as detrimental as keeping children out of school. And we're not talking about children who are not legal, but families that may have a single person who has a questionable immigration status, who then feel that their entire families are at risk. So the fear resulting from this executive order does not serve the public safety in our state or our communities. And there's been a lot of press about comments that I made at a press conference in support of when Senator De Leon released the bill. But I want to make it clear, I did not explicitly call for the First Lady to put out her immigration papers, because I do not believe in witch hunts.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. First of all, I want to thank Senator De Leon for his leadership on this critically important issue. We, as California, right now need to stand up in a very clear and strong way to say that what is happening in this country is both terrifying and unacceptable. And if California isn't going to stand up and push back and say no to this administration, then I don't know who will. When I was growing up, I learned early on that when you're dealing with a bully, you don't capitulate, you don't cave in. If you cave into a bully and say, well, you're saying you're illegally going to take money away from us, so therefore we're going to do what you want to do and turn in our immigrant neighbors to be deported, and so we're going to cave into you, that's not going to stop him. He's just going to go further and further and continue to do real damage to democratic institutions in this country.
Trying to get to the facts, NPR had, I think, a very interesting story on this, and I think we all, or at least most people, agree that they are kind of fact-driven. They're not Breitbart or any of the kind of extreme on the left. They are a place where facts matter. The available data on crime, immigration, and safety in cities, they say, does not support the premise for the president's actions. News outlets and researchers pointed out during the presidential campaign that immigrants who are in this country illegally are less likely to commit crimes or be incarcerated than the general population. A fact. The American Immigration Council noted in a 2015 study that the recent period of rising immigration to the United States from 1990 to 2013 also corresponded with plummeting crime rates across the country. A fact. This past Thursday, a new study conducted by Tom K. Wong, a political scientist at UC San Diego, found that there are broad benefits for local jurisdictions that resist cooperating with federal immigration enforcement. They are safer in the aggregate and enjoy stronger economies. Quote, for the first time, we're kind of seeing that crime rates are lower when localities stay out of the business of federal immigration enforcement. Okay? Facts.
It's really important for elected officials, Democrats as Republicans, to not participate in stoking the fears of everyday Californians. It's really important that we rise to a higher level of moral leadership that we don't exploit for political purposes. My heart goes to the Steinle family because I think this was a horrible tragedy. And my heart goes to the mother and to the father. And it was very clear, as Senator Scott Wiener pointed out, it was incompetence on part of Homeland Security and ICE and the federal government. It's a horrible thing that happened.
Thank you. Additional witnesses in opposition.
My name is Lupe Ostolia Morfin Moreno. My father was a Mexican, bracero. My mother was a Tejana, or is a Tejana. And I'm here representing my sister, Angie Morfin, whose son was murdered a block away from my mother's home 25 years ago. I don't think he was the first victim, but we're the first families to speak out in the state of California. And I also am representing the angel mothers whose children have been slaughtered and murdered in our communities, especially cities like Salinas, California, and Santa Ana, California. Salinas, an unofficial sanctuary city. Santa Ana just became an official sanctuary city. Article 4 of Section 4 of the United States shall guarantee to every state in the nation a republic form and shall protect each against evasion and domestic violence. Our beautiful children have been sacrificed at the altar of elected officials and nonprofits, as we could see how many nonprofits are making money off of our dead children. Section 8 says that we will not help illegal aliens in any way or form or encourage them to be in our cities, to be in our neighborhoods, to kill our children. We want you to stop this now. Now. I have it on good authority. Our side wins. Even with all that you have, our side wins. Because you have weeping mothers, not only in California, but throughout the United States now. It's not here, it's everywhere now. Stop trying to blare the difference between illegal and legal. There's a big difference. We're Americans. We live the American culture and we have the American spirit. We don't steal, we don't lie, and we don't take other people's things. This man that was up here crying because he was locked up or something, these mothers, these families, their children are gone forever. They're buried throughout California and the United States. Ruben was 13 years old. He was just starting. And a man grabbed him and blew out his brains. Stephen Woods was at the beach. How many of you have gone to the beach with a girl and walked the beach? And he was surrounded, and he had a paint roller plunged through his brain. 17 years old, Jamil Shaw, a dream of playing football, and he doesn't play. His dad, I'm sorry, but I have wept with these families. I have wept with these families. Drew Rosenberg, San Francisco, murdered by an illegal alien, ran over him on his bike 3 times. 3 times. But guess what? His dad was a liberal. And guess what? Now he's fighting all this mess that you guys have gotten us to. Eric Cepeda, hit by an illegal alien that was here illegally, driving illegally, and working illegally. Dominic Duran, his mother went to the Republican National Committee convention. David Marsh, he was shot, a deputy sheriff in Los Angeles. He was shot, and then the illegal alien came out and shot him again while he was laying there. Cristina Pena was 14 years old when some guy grabbed her and strangled her and threw her into a field, raining. That's where they found her body. I am a victim of illegal immigration. I was molested as a child, as I know you were, Richard. I know you were molested. How dare you side with the other side? How dare you? I was pregnant by 14. I had 5 children by the time I was 22 by an illegal alien, and I married him. So my city is a sanctuary city. I live in fear, horror, terror. I don't leave my house very often. I go to work, and I am a county government worker, 34 years. I know what social services we do. I know the cost of helping illegal aliens, foreign, unlawful foreigners. We want it stopped. Or the mothers and the fathers, the families. We are going to plaster our children's pictures all over the state, and we're going to let them know what government elected officials have let the slaughter of our children happen in California and all these cities. It's a disgrace, a total disgrace. I ask you to vote no on 54.
Thank you. Next witness in opposition, please.